Hello, SCBWI. My name is Alice McGinty. I'm your newest Regional Advisor Emerita, and we are here for another virtual book launch party. And I am thrilled to introduce Karla Valenti. I feel like I have discovered hidden treasure here with Karla. She has been a member of our chapter for the last 2 years and living in Chicago. And we have this amazing person, an amazing writer right here in our chapter, and I never knew her before. So I'm thrilled to introduce her to all of you. Karla is bursting onto the scene, not only with a brand new debut picture book about Marie Curie and the power of persistence, but that book is one of a series of super science heroes, and she will tell us about it. There you go. And not only that, she has got a picture book biography of Maria Mariposa in the Works with Chronicle, right?
Yep.
And a 2-book middle grade series that was sold via auction. And you'll tell us hopefully a little bit about that too. So Karla is going to tell us all about her book about Marie Curie because it's got an amazing story behind it. And then she'll tell us a little bit about her other books that are upcoming. And hopefully she'll tell us about her services as a teacher, because she teaches picture book writing and she critiques manuscripts. And I know you guys are going to be interested in that because I think we have a wonderful person here and a brilliant writer. And I'm super excited for her to take it away today.
Well, first of all, thank you to you, and thank you so much to SCBWI for doing these virtual parties. The generosity of the writing community is something that's very prevalent, but more so now than ever. So please know how much this is appreciated. And I told you this before, but I am very, very grateful for your time on this. So the Marie Curie story is actually, it's a lovely origin story, and I'm very excited to share it with any writer, because it's a very untraditional path. And I think sometimes as writers, we need to know that there are different ways of getting to where we want to go. I'll try to summarize it as much as I can. A few years back, actually about 6 years back, we were living in Europe, in Germany, and I found out about a call for proposals that was put out by a science association called the Marie Curie Alumni Association. It's a association of global researchers, about 4,000 researchers and scientists. And they wanted to put something out to celebrate the 150th anniversary of Marie Curie, but also have it hopefully be a fundraising platform. And so they thought it would be great to do a book about Marie Curie, and they reached out to the writing community requesting story proposals. So I am not a fiction writer, and at first I was hesitant to take the opportunity because it just didn't feel like it was within my range. But I loved the initiative, and I loved the kind of work that Marie Curie Association was doing. So I thought, you know what, if nothing else, at least it's an opportunity to flex my writing muscles and try something new. So I started doing research on Marie Curie, and one of the things that was very interesting as I read her life was there was a common thread that I had never seen explored before in her biography, which I had read before just because I'm interested in her and I happen to have read some of her books before, but persistence. Throughout her life, she encountered a tremendous amount of obstacles, as one does, but particularly in her stories, time and again, the challenge and the opposition came up as a theme. And I thought, well, that's remarkable, because she really had to encounter and battle up against a lot of opposition. And really what enabled her to succeed wasn't that she was born brilliant, which she was, or that she went and studied and had opportunities to work on all these things, that she persisted throughout each of these obstacles, starting from the very beginning when they didn't have a lot of money, and they didn't have schools in Poland for young girls. And she really had to overcome obstacle after obstacle after obstacle. And as these sort of ideas came together, it occurred to me that it might be a very interesting and compelling read for young children to have a story that's told about a famous person that we know about, we've read a lot about her, but to present a different angle of her story, to present the perspective of her innate abilities and skills that enabled her to reach whatever it was that she wanted to reach. So to reframe this, Marie Curie isn't famous because she won 2 Nobel Prizes and had all these amazing discoveries. What made her remarkable was her persistence. And so as the ideas started to come together, I thought, this is almost like a superpower that she has. And given that, you know, little children and big children really like superheroes, that would be a really fun way to weave those two narratives and deliver something different. The Marie Curie Association had said that they wanted a book that made science interesting and accessible to young children. And I think that is a challenge the STEM community faces, because there are children who are naturally drawn towards science. They love it. They have no problem being enticed into it. But there are a lot of children who feel that it's out of their league or fail to really connect the way that the children who immediately get these concepts. I was one of them. I love science. I'm fascinated by it. But I always fail to really connect the dots in the mathematical and scientific way. And I thought that this would be a great way to bridge those two, to bring those hesitant STEM lovers into this world by saying, hold on a second, there's more to being a famous scientist. There's more to loving science than just being brilliant or making an amazing discovery. Really, the core of it, the key that makes one anything are these traits: persistence, curiosity, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's sort of how the story came together. And I started writing it. And of course, you know, given that this is a superhero novel, we needed a big bad guy. That's a super evil nemesis. So a very, you know, adequately named bad guy. And then Marie Curie has a minion. So super evil nemesis sends out his minion to defeat Marie Curie, and her minion is called Mr. Opposition. And so I presented the story, and I wasn't really expecting too much, but to my great surprise, the story won. And they were delighted. They loved the idea. They loved the concept. At that point, I had sort of decided that it would be a really great series, and this was something that they had wanted to do as well. So I was privileged enough to be able to help select the illustrator, which is very unusual in picture books. But the reason for that was because the text itself is so dependent on the artwork in order to communicate this idea. And so I needed to work with a pro, and I needed to work with someone who was able to understand the philosophy and the concept that we were trying to build and execute it in a way that really allowed both the art and the text to tell the story. And so the association had identified a couple illustrators that they thought might fit the bill. And we chose, together we chose Annalisa Beghelli, who is this amazing Italian illustrator. She has a number of picture books, and she just immediately understood what we were trying to do. And it was so fun working with her because we collaborated, the two of us went back and forth, exploring a lot of these concepts and ideas and what would be the best way to execute this. And so, for instance, one lovely thing that she did is at the beginning of the story, and I'll read a little bit later. Marie Curie is very small, she's a little girl, and Mr. Opposition is huge, and he's scary, and he has fangs, and he has yellow eyes, and he's very intimidating. And as the story progresses, he softens, he shrinks, and at the end of the story, he fits in her pocket, and he's this adorable little dragon-like creature. But symbolically, that captures brilliantly the process of encountering an opposition for the first time, overcoming it, defeating it, and it never goes away. It's not as if our oppositions just vanish. They're always there, but they're manageable. And in fact, they are one of the reasons that we have succeeded. And that was sort of one of the key central principles that I wanted to explore in the book, was that the opposition served a purpose. It wasn't just a bad guy. The opposition is precisely what helped her reach her dream. Because every time she had to confront Mr. Opposition, she had a choice. She could either walk away and give up, throw her hands in the air, or she could double down and keep moving forward. And it was that moment, that decision to persist, what led her to succeed. So Mr. Opposition actually played a very important role in her life. And that's an important message that I wanted to convey to children, is that opposition will come your way and it will be scary, but you will eventually overcome it in the sense that you shrink it, you own it, and it will propel you to heights that you didn't have before, that weren't accessible to you before. So we began working in a true collaboration with the Science Association as consultants on the science end, and Alisa as a master illustrator, and then myself with the words. And we created this book, and the goal was to launch it as an Indiegogo crowdfunding initiative. And so then to use those funds, the Science Association would pay us a small fee, and then those funds would be used to really promote and support the initiatives of the Science Association. So we go live with the campaign, and it just explodes. It was unbelievable, the attention that it received. Before the month was over, we had exceeded our goal by 20%, and we had been contacted by Sourcebooks, who made us an offer for world rights on the whole series. And it blew my mind. It was unbelievable. And it's funny because they actually found out about the series through a tweet that was forwarded by someone that had heard about the campaign. And so then we began talking to Sourcebooks about the book, and ended up signing a deal with them to release the book worldwide. So it's lovely, and the book just came out this month. It's been a project, 3 years of work, but just we're so proud of where it is and where it's ended up. And what's exciting was that Sourcebooks was 100% on board with the series. And so now moving forward, we really have a nice team working together with the Science Association and myself and Annalisa, and we identify scientists that are interesting to us, but also scientists that we think have a compelling trait, a superpower that children can relate to, but that maybe hasn't been highlighted as much as it could be. And so the next book, which is due out in January, tentatively, is Alan Turing and the Power of Curiosity. And his minion is Miss Enigma. And as people who know Alan Turing will appreciate, there's a little bit of play there. But that book is all about curiosity and about riddles and about puzzles and about decoding things, and really, but exploring Alan Turing's life, his real factual life, using his power of curiosity and how that plays up against Miss Enigma. It's a very, very exciting series to be a part of, and I'm delighted to share it with the world. I will say a couple things for our librarians and educators and teachers and homeschoolers. The Science Association prepared a phenomenal 40-page science guide, experiment guide, that's available for free for anybody who's interested. And that can be found on my site. So it's very easy. You can just access it if anybody is interested. And yeah, so I guess that's the origin story. And what's very, what I love sharing about it is precisely that it's very untraditional. I didn't follow the path. It didn't come to me the way that a lot of other things come. And I guess the takeaway there is be open to opportunities that perhaps seem out there and you think may not be the right opportunity for you, because you just never know where it's going to end up. And persist in continuing to follow your dream and what it is that you want. So with that in mind, I'll read a couple pages if everybody is on board with that. So this is Marie Curie and the Power of Persistence. And I just have to highlight the artwork here is just amazing. I am so enamored of the work that Annalisa did with this book. Sorry, bear with me. So here's super evil nemesis. Deep beneath an icy mountain in a dark and craggy cave, super evil nemesis was reading his favorite book. And you can't see it, but the book is How to Take Over the World in One.
Hey, Karla.
Yes?
As you read, make sure you're in front of the book because the audio is coming and going. So just make sure you're speaking directly to the computer.
Sure. Is this better?
No, you
No?
have to have your face closer to the computer.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, this is, how about this?
Nope, sorry, it's cutting out.
Okay, I don't know if I'll be able to read it.
That's okay like that. Share the screen with the book.
Okay.
Yeah, perfect.
So, super evil, okay. Once upon a time, people didn't know anything, and that made them afraid. Ooh, the minion said. When people are afraid, they can be controlled, Nemesis went on. Ah, the minion said. Step 1, stop the spread of knowledge. That is how we take over the world. Wah, ha, ha, ha. The minions cheered and clapped. Super evil Nemesis did not know that at that very moment, brave heroes with their own brand of superpowers were being born all over the world. And so begins our story, an epic adventure to save the world. And so the book goes on. We have Marie Curie's story on one side, and then the alerts that are being sent to super evil Nemesis by his minion. And the alerts all contain real facts about Marie Curie's life and also his reaction to how things are evolving. And as you can see, super evil Nemesis and the minion, he's so scary looking and evil guy. I'll fast forward a little bit to the end so you can see a little bit about how he, this is one of my favorite pages where Marie meets Pierre and they move in together and Mr. Opposition moves in with them. But he is now a lot smaller, a lot less scary. And he actually, as the story evolves, also persists in trying to defeat her, but ultimately acknowledges that what they're doing is really interesting. And so he ends up going to their side and helping them along. And then at the end of the book, we have, we have glossary and we have facts and resources for children. And I think the idea is to present the fiction side, the facts, the science, the resources, but also present the story to frame it all in a narrative that gives the children a chance to lose themselves in the superhero component of the story and then also absorb these facts along the way.
That's beautiful. I love it. So before we end, just briefly tell us about your upcoming books and about the services that you offer to authors.
Sure, thank you for the opportunity. Maria Mariposa is a book that's coming out with Chronicle, and it's not a biography. That is a fiction. It actually has a lot of magical realism, which is my bread and butter. And so it's magical realism, pint-sized story, and that's due out in 2022. And then the novel that you mentioned, the middle grade novel, that was just such an amazing experience. But it's a story that takes place in Mexico, and it features life and death. And a young girl and life and death are playing a game called Loteria, which is very similar to bingo. And the stakes are quite high because a child named Clara is the pawn. And if life wins, Clara will get a long life. If death wins, Clara will join death at the end of the story. And as the story evolves, life and death are having a discussion about free will versus determinism. I have a background in philosophy, and so this is a philosophical dissertation packed up in a middle grade novel. And so as the story progresses, life and death are discussing whether free will exists, and they're flipping the cards, and the cards are unfolding in Clara's life, as is the discussion of free will versus determinism. Wow. So that you can see whether or not, does she have free will? Is this predetermined? And then I will not tell you how it ends. You'll have to read it when it comes out, hopefully next year. And it is a 2-book deal. I'm not quite sure yet if the second book will be in the same world, but I'm working with Knopf Penguin, and I'm just very I'm so excited about this book. It's wonderful.
And it was set in Mexico, which I don't know if you've mentioned, but you were born and raised in Mexico. So
that's right.
That's an important connection too.
Absolutely, and it takes place in a city called Oaxaca City, which is where my father is from, and my grandfather too. But the whole book is set in Mexico, so there's a lot of Mexican myth and food and art and culture and words, and the whole thing unfolds there, which is something that has been very important to me in the diversity movement. It's not just what is it like for me to be a Mexican here, but how can I invite non-Mexicans into my world, and how can I lay out a narrative where they can step in and walk around the world that I grew up in. So that's what I hope I've been able to do with this story, and we'll see. It's wonderful. I'm very excited to have this opportunity.
That's great. And so before we leave, just tell us about your services for writers. If anyone is interested in critiques or in learning more, tell them what you offer.
Sure. So I have a master course on picture book writing. It's a self-guided course, and it involves it's broken up into 8 different sections that are each exploring a key principle of storytelling. It applies to storytelling across the board, but with a particular focus in picture book writing. And it's probably over 100 pages of content and worksheets, and it includes also a private Facebook page where we're constantly exploring and debating these ideas. But I think that the key part of my teaching style is to really focus on structure and to understand, and this is my lawyer brain that kind of comes into the writing, but to really understand how to build a solid story structure that you can then fill in with the lovely narrative and world building and character arcs, but to really understand how to form a tight story that will support all of that. And so the course is it's a self-guided workshop. I'm available throughout the whole program for people, but it's also an opportunity for writers to work at their own pace. And I have some clients that have done one every week, and others that they take their time over the year, and we sort of go back and have discussions as their stories evolve. But that's available on my website. And then I also do professional picture book critiques. And I love this. It's been something that I was surprised at how much I enjoy the critiquing, but also how much I learn from it, because in reviewing other people's work, it's always easier to do than our own. And I learn so much about what works and what doesn't by reading other people's work. And so I'm always very grateful when I have opportunities to critique. But it is a service I offer, so if anybody's interested, that's available on my website.
That's wonderful. Karla, thank you so much. I've learned so much about you and your books and everything from this talk. So thank you very, very much for taking the time to talk with SCBWI members today. We're thrilled. Like I say, I feel like we've discovered something so special in you as a member of our chapter, and so we really appreciate you sharing. Your books are great. I know they're going to go out into the world and do so well. And so thank you very much for spending the time.
And thank you to all the members who listen and are able to support me or any other writers. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Good. And that leads me to the very last thing, and that is next Wednesday. Stay tuned for our next virtual book launch party. It will be on Wednesday, May 6th. Suzanne Slade and Cosby Cabrera will be talking about their amazing picture book together. It's called Exquisite, and it's about the life of Gwendolyn Brooks. So tune in for that as well. And again, thank you, Karla. Wishing you all the best.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.